All right, let's talk about Thrive Community Partners. All right, so there's these ladies here. They started this company, I think, in 23, and they had previously worked at other companies where they did a bunch of economic development, small business development, and they were seeing how, Columbus, Toledo's, Cincinnati's were getting a lot of work and a lot of effort put into their communities to create these really amazing places, and it wasn't being done for rural America. And so they strongly believe, as I do, that rural America is the backbone of America and that we need to do everything that we can to preserve it. And so they wanted to bring the skills that they had gathered to places like Ada, and so that's why they're here. So they were brought in to facilitate discussions with the community. So we have a steering committee that has Julie Simmons, which is the superintendent of Ada Schools, Jason Brogg from ONU, Lindsay Holler from the Ada Chamber, Bob Sivens, who was on council and also an educator, and then Amanda Sears, who is the village administrator. So you kind of have these big pillars of the community, and they were surprised. They really are saying the same things, like Ada is ready to take the next step. What does that look like? What are the challenges that they have? And what do the citizens want? And so that's where Thrive comes in, and they kind of help that process. They know what the end goal is. They know how to get the grants and bring in the money to be able to do these projects. And so taking the ideas from the community with the leadership and direction of the steering committee and kind of putting those together into a grant package form so that we get some really incredible things happening in Ada. So that's kind of the idea. They do have a timeline that started today, right? So they had the council presentation today that, kind of explained everything that they're doing. In April, they're going to work on talking with the college students, right? Because ONU is a big part of Ada, and if Ada thrives, the college thrives, and vice versa. And so they want to hear, what do these college students, what do they want, what is their impact? And so they're going to focus on that in April before they go back home for the end of the school year. And then in the summer, they're going to be reaching out to residents. So they'll have some open houses where you can come and talk to them at different days, different times. They'll have online survey forms. So if you see those, make sure you're filling them out. And I'm sure that you can contact anybody on the steering committee, Amanda, and let them know kind of your ideas. They are really looking for anything and everything. So, sidewalks need to be refurbished, let them know. And if enough people say we need better sidewalks, then that's going to become a focus. If you guys really need more walking space or bike riding places or, better parks, things that you want to see in your community, that's where you're going to say, hey, I had an idea, I had a dream, this is what we would like to see. Maybe different restaurants or different things. I'm not sure what the entire scope of their skill set is, but it's a great opportunity to put your vote in for something, and then as other people put their same votes in, you're going to see what rises to the top and what's important to everybody in the community. So that's summer that they're going to be doing that. And then in September, they're going to have a festival presentation and follow-up. At the midpoint, they will talk back with council, and then council, they'll refine the plan or, kind of tweak it a little bit, and then they will have plan approval by the end of the year. So you're kind of looking at an 8 to 9 month schedule to gather information from you guys. So make sure that when you see this, you're stepping up and putting your input in, because this is the most important time to complain, right? How many times do they ask you to complain for your own benefit? So they are doing that, and they want to use that to find solutions, right? So this is a solution-based process, and then they want to pair the solution with the funding so that it can be finished. So the Village of Ada strategic plan, so they have this written down here, is the goal of this plan is not to change Ada, but to establish a clearly articulated, unified direction that positions Ada as a funding-ready community, equipped to pursue projects aligned with local priorities and long-term vision, while providing strategic guidance for future leadership and honoring the identity that defines Ada. So funding ready really means that, you know, when you're going after grant money, you need to know all kinds of different numbers. You need to have the right people in place to say, yep, our strategic planning committee is on board, you know, our economic development's on board, you know, all these pieces are in place. You may have resolutions that are kind of ready to go, and you say, hey, if money becomes available, we're ready. You know, we're not going to have to wait 2, 3, 4 months to gather the data. It's funding ready projects you've already done. You know, we talked a lot about data centers, and they already have maps that show how underground water flows through Ada, and so that's a huge asset, because it's like, oh, the surveys have already been done. You know, our infrastructure, you know, blueprints and things are already ready. So that's kind of what that means. So that you're flexible and mobile when opportunities arise. So anyways, I just wanted to get that out to you guys, and to kind of be thinking about, you know, what do you want to see in Ada, and what things, you know, could make your quality of life there in Ada as residents kind of better. So anyways, have fun dreaming, and show up to the meetings and ask all your questions. All right, we'll talk to you later.